Hello, this is Dr. Joe Trout from the physics program at Stockton University. And today we're going to talk about vanilla custard. So the difference between vanilla ice cream and vanilla custard is the addition of egg yolks. So we're going to do two new things today. We're going to first talk about how making custard and also how to add vanilla bean into your ice cream mix. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to start heating some milk and the cream. So this recipe calls for 3 cups of cream, 1 cup of milk, 5 egg yolks, a vanilla bean, and a teaspoon of vanilla, and a pinch of salt, and half a cup of sugar. Okay, so first what we're going to do is combine the cream and the milk and the sugar and the salt into a pot and start heating it slowly. And we're also going to add in the vanilla and the vanilla bean and let it cook and let it heat up for a little bit. So take a pot and we'll go ahead and measure out a cup of milk, and 3 cups of cream. Sometimes the cream separates a little bit, so I shake it up a little bit and to keep it. Right. And go ahead and open it up. And we'll add in the 3 cups of cream. So this recipe actually calls for a half teaspoon of salt, which is a little more than you usually put into an ice cream recipe. So we'll go ahead and add the half teaspoon of salt. And half a cup of sugar, but save about a tablespoon of sugar. So just add in most of the sugar and save about a tablespoon or 2 because we're going to use it to temper the eggs. And we'll add a tablespoon of vanilla. And vanilla beans are expensive. That's why we're using half vanilla and half vanilla bean to flavor this recipe. So next, what we need to do is we're going to add in the vanilla bean. And what we need to do is split these and then scrape out the seeds and put it into our mix. And we'll also toss in the vanilla beans. So I'm going to do it on a plate so you can see it easily. And what we're going to do is we'll take a sharp knife and just split down the center of the vanilla bean. Vanilla beans are really interesting. They come from actually an orchid, and it's the only edible part of an orchid plant. So you can go ahead and scrape these out and make sure your knife is slanted this way and not this way. If you slant it this way, you'll cut the vanilla bean. And then just go ahead and drop it in to the mix. Okay, and get as much of the seeds out as you can. So we'll do that for both sides of the vanilla bean. And you can see these are the vanilla beans themselves. So go ahead and drop that into our mix. And we'll do the other one. Sorry, sometimes they stick to the knife a little bit. It's okay. And finally, we're going to take the vanilla beans and just toss them into the mix. And now we can scrape out any additional seeds that were on the plate. Okay, so now we'll stir this up, and you can feel the sugar is kind of heavy on the bottom, and we'll go ahead and just mix this all up. And then we're going to put it on the stove at a low heat. And you'll need to mix it occasionally. But while that's heating, what we're going to do is we're going to actually temper the eggs. So this is what happens. Eggs consist of protein that have very long molecules. And what happens if you heat them too fast, those molecules shrink and wind up. And they become like scrambled eggs. But if you were to just add the eggs into the ice cream mix and heat them up, what you'd come up with are some really disgusting scrambled eggs. Okay? So what we're going to do is temper the eggs. And what we need to do is separate the whites from the yolks. Okay? So in order to do that, I think the best method, or the one that I find easiest, is to crack the egg and then to hold the yolk in one side, and then to flip the yolk back and forth until you get rid of all the whites. So, in case you've never done this before, what we're going to do is crack the egg, and then break it apart, and the yolk will remain in one of the shells, and then you can pass it back and forth between the two shells until most of the whites are gone. And then you put it into a separate bowl. Okay? So let me bring the camera closer so you can see it a little bit better. So go ahead and crack the egg, break it into two, and the yolk's in one of the shells, and then pass it back and forth between the two halves of the shell until you have most of the white gone. And we need 5 of these. Okay, last one. Okay, and we'll drop it in the eggs. Okay, so next we can go ahead and put a lid on this and put it in the refrigerator, and you can save the egg whites to make a nice egg white omelet, for instance. I personally don't like eggs. However, Rosemary does like eggs, so she can use it to make scrambled eggs or an omelet. But try to get it in the refrigerator pretty quickly. Don't have it sitting around. Okay, so now what we want to do is take the yolks and put them into a larger bowl. Okay, and also don't forget that you have the mix on the stove, so don't forget to mix it every once in a while. And we're trying to bring it up, and sadly, if you read recipes, what it'll say is heat it until just before boiling, which is difficult to think about. But if you look for little wisps of white smoke that come off the top, that'll usually be good. I'm going to turn it up a little tiny bit. And if you heat it too quickly, it'll develop like a cooked flavor. So now what we need to do is whisk the eggs. And what I'm going to do is add the rest of the sugar to the eggs. And then we'll take it and whisk it. And we're actually adding energy to the egg, so don't be afraid to really go crazy, right? So you can just hit it pretty hard. And the egg yolks will actually change color. They'll become a little more pale yellow than that bright yellow color that they had originally. And you can do this for a couple minutes. Okay, so now what we have to do is wait for the mix on the stove to continue to heat. And what we're going to do is slowly add the mix to these egg yolks and sugar mixture. And we'll do it really slowly. And once again, if you do it too fast, it'll cook the eggs. And then, so if you do it too fast, it'll cook the eggs and you'll end up with scrambled eggs. Okay, so now the milk and cream and sugar and vanilla are nice and hot. What I'm going to do is turn off the stove and move the pot near to, I'm going to bring it over to the work surface here. And what we need to do is temper the eggs. So remember, we whisk them nice and strongly. Now and you can notice the milk, there's a little bit of steam coming off of it, but it's not boiling. And what we're going to do is add a little bit of milk at a time. So if you have a ladle, that'll work, or just take a mixing cup and take some of the mix and slowly add it to the egg yolks. And continuously stirring it the whole time. So actually, maybe we'll bring the camera closer for a second. So we'll take some of the mix, and those black dots you see, of course, are the seeds, and just have it pour into the side of the bowl while you slowly heat up the eggs. If you notice chunks, then stop because your eggs are ruined. So just keep slowly adding this. And a cup or so should be good. Okay, so next what we'll do is scrape out this cup to make sure we get all the vanilla beans. And now we're going to slowly add this heated egg mixture back into the mix, and we'll continuously stir while we do it. So don't forget, this is custard or French style ice cream, it's also called. So if you notice, if you buy French style ice cream in the store, it has a yellowish color to it, and it comes from these egg yolks. All right, so now what we have to do is we'll take it and put it back on the stove. And we'll start to slowly heat it again. And we definitely want to keep continuously stirring it the whole time. So here's the object. We're going to slowly bring it up to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we're going to let it cook for 6 to 8 minutes until it gets thick. Sadly, due to isolation, I only have a candy thermometer, but what we need to do is bring it up to about 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So you could just sit this in there, and right now it's at about 100, and we'll let it cook for a little while. Okay, so it reached 180 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's been cooking for about 5 or 6 minutes. And it's gotten nice and thick now. So what we want to do is turn it off, take out your thermometer, and then we're going to strain it into a new bowl. Okay, so there might be, well, number one, there's the vanilla bean that you want to get rid of, but also there might be some little chunks. It'll be okay. So go ahead and pour it through a strainer. Ooh. And now we'll want it to cool off. So why you pull it for the strainer is, number one, to get rid of the vanilla beans, and also in case there was any eggshells or a little bit of the mix solidified. Now the problem with this is it's a 2-day process. So what we'll do is go ahead and cover this. And then we need to put it in the refrigerator. We can't put it into the ice cream mix right now. So it has to cool for at least 5 or 6 hours. And it probably the best thing to do is just leave it in there overnight and churn it the next day. And the flavors will develop a little bit too while it's in the refrigerator. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow. Hello, so the mix has been cooling for a couple hours, and now we're going to take our ice cream machine. Don't forget that consists of a frozen ball that's been in the freezer overnight, and a paddle, which we also kept in the freezer. And we have our mix that was in the freezer, and I'm sorry, that was in the refrigerator for several hours. And we'll give it a quick stir to make sure all the elements are incorporated. And pour it into the ice cream maker. You want to make sure you scrape the bottom of the bowl, because there might be some vanilla seeds that have sunk to the bottom. Now we'll put the cap on and turn it on, And don't forget, this one has, the top is completely open. So we'll go ahead and add a layer of tin foil or cellophane. And we can just take a kitchen towel and place it over the top and then turn it on. Now it'll churn for about 15 or 20 minutes. All right, so it's been churning for about 20 minutes. And once again, what we have now is soft serve ice cream. So go ahead and take out the paddle and dish it out. The overrun isn't as great as last time. So there's not as much air whipped into this batch of ice cream. And it's a little bit richer. So of course, a lot of that has to do with the egg yolks that we added. So now we'll go ahead and put it in the freezer and let it harden overnight. And in a few hours, we'll have our ice cream, our vanilla ice cream custard. All right, thanks a lot. Next lab will be on chocolate ice cream.